So I pray the words I'm to speak now, the words you need us all to hear at this time. Amen. I wonder if, Brian, if you could put up the slide that I've got, hopefully, for the next bit. Ta-da. Fantastic. You won't see it very clearly, but this is an outline in possibly cast iron of the unknown soldier. A few days ago, Catherine and I had the opportunity to go to the Tower of London to see the cascade of poppies marking 80 years since VE Day. And as well as the cascade of poppies, which was itself very impressive, there was a small remembrance garden, and at the head of the remembrance garden was this little statuette. I say it's not particularly clear, but of the unknown soldier. I found it possibly, with all the displays in the tower there, the most poignant and moving of the displays, the poppies that were around there. I think we know a bit about the idea of the unknown soldier. If you go to Westminster Abbey, the grave of the unknown soldier is the first thing that you see coming in the west door. If you find yourself in Paris, under the Arc de Triomphe is the grave of the unknown soldier, clearly a different one. And an understanding from the end of the First War that people needed to show their love, particularly families who had lost someone in the conflicts. As with all conflicts, the tragedy was there were many soldiers who were not able to be identified and never came home. But as comfort, particularly to the families and the mothers, these were given burials with full state military honours, such that families could say, well, you know what, it's our lad in there. It's our lad there. And have a place to come and to remember their loved one who hadn't made it back from the field of battle. And I was set to some pondering and took this picture of the unknown soldier about what this is all about and the cost to families of those who go to war. It's very easy to fall into the anonymity of war. Those that have happened last century, prior to that, or maybe current conflicts. When people talk about war, they tend to start arguing about numbers, the cost of war, the statistics, exactly how many people have to die before there's a genocide declared. And people become numbers. How many bombs were dropped? How many aircraft? How many missiles? How many ships? How many submarines? How many people didn't come back? It's often said that truth is the first casualty of war. But in my reflections for this morning, I think I will challenge that. Yes, there's an awful lot of truth goes missing in times of war. But I think that more profound than that, personhood is the first thing that is a casualty of war. And maybe personhood may be stripped from the enemy before a shot is fired. Our reflection that every person, every human being carries the image of God. Don't take my word for it. There's a book kicking around somewhere which has this fairly close to the start. Every person carries the image of God, and yet it is that personhood, an understanding of humanity, which is the first casualty of war. I'm a little bit of a Facebook junkie, as Catherine keeps reminding me when she goes, "Can you not put that down for a minute?" And I found myself in a little bit of a, whirlpool of feeds showing what's going on throughout the world in various conflicts: Gaza, Sudan, Nigeria. Every day I will see pictures of broken bodies, of makeshift graves. And frequently, this is the however many thousandth person to have died in this conflict. So many hundreds in this particular town or village alone. And individual deaths simply become numbers. And I have to remind myself, everyone behind every single figure is a person who has loved and has been loved, whether they're serving or civilian. They have carried within them the image of God. In this country, something of that understanding prompted the War Memorial movement after the First World War. And for those of you who don't know, we are sitting in a war memorial as we speak, as this church, and particularly the bells, are designated as war memorials. The names are those preserved by the loved ones, the personhood of the person who died, preserved by the loved ones. If you make it up the bell tower at any point and look at our own memorial bells, you will see cast into them the names of those who did not come back from the First War. And similarly, where we shall lay the wreaths after this service, at the bottom of the bell tower, there are names of people who did not come back. War memorials, like them or loathe them, and there's a number kicking around, they are there to remind us of the humanity, the cost, the human cost of war in a way that statistics never can. 60,000 here, 20,000 there. Countless millions in the First and Second World Wars. But what a war memorial does when it does its job right is to point us back to the person who loved and was loved in the name that stays on it. This year, well, this time every year, there is a name I remember. Not someone I know or ever knew, but I won't rehearse the account of telling his mother that her son was not coming back from Afghanistan. For me, it is her voice still ringing in my ears as a scream that reminds me that it's not the numbers of war that matter. It is the people who have loved and have been loved. If you're interested, the guy's name was Scott James. So what is the job of remembrance? We do it every year. We make an effort to do stuff with poppies, to be quiet. But what's the point? Just Friday gone, I joined the Cubs and the Scouts, and we had a couple of moments of remembrance together and asking what is all about. And I think the best concise answer I can give you to remembrance, not that we remember people, very few people here, particularly in this country in this year, remember people who have died. We talk about honoring them, something to do with the legacy they fought for, with languages of our own freedom. But for me, this year in particular, the answer I would give to the question, what's remembrance for, is to remember the humanity, the human cost of conflict, in the names that we either remember or know or see carved, and to remind ourselves again, these people loved and were loved, and each one carried the image of God. And I would have to say that is more important now than ever. Particularly, we living through a time when we are told by some very prominent politicians to disregard other people's humanity, to regard other people as them rather than us, to strip them of their personhood, let them become statistics. Those who have come across the channel in boats, whatever it happens to be. Once you start talking about statistics, it's easy to forget that we are talking about people made in the image of God. As I said, don't take my word for it. I'm sure we can find a book with it in for you somewhere. People who are loved and who love. People who share our humanity. So this year, remembrance in particular, talk about honor. Maybe watch a war film if you're so inclined. Wear your poppies. But remember that remembrance is to do with human beings, real human beings who lived and loved and carried the image of God. And when we forget that, don't bother doing remembrance. We can't know everyone's name, but we can, in remembrance, promote peace by knowing that the people on the other side, howsoever defined, also have names. I'm old enough to remember the Cold War and some of the fear that was going around in the early 1980s. And it was of that era that Sting produced the record, how old am I? Russians. Some of you may know it. If you don't, go and find it. And the refrain, if the Russians love their children too. A call to recognize the humanity, the names of the people on the other side. So maybe if we redefine remembrance, perhaps we also redefine victory. Victory in conflict not to be measured by territory gained, economic or political advantage, but by humanity being preserved. Those of you who were here at the start of the service when we had our opening set of songs will have heard Above All Powers, which has the line, "You took the fall and thought of me above all." It's no coincidence that the person we proclaim to be the Prince of Peace knows us all by name. We're going to sing again, and the words will be on the screen. If you are able, willing, and wish to join in, do feel